Well, hello, and welcome to Gallifrey's Most Wanted. I'm Ross Aiken. I'm Old Who.
My name is Melvin Pena, and I represent Yoo-Hoo.
And I'm still here. Hey,
Folks. The three of us have gone to the movies, and we're watching they were showing the cartoon before, and all hell broke loose. And now we're going to discuss the new episode, Lux. Since I'm feeling a little more confident with my voice 10 days after dental surgery, I'm going to start.
Mm-hmm.
I enjoyed the hell out of it. It looked beautiful. It looked beautiful. I mean, really, the set design, the palette, the cartoon design, everything to make an entertaining episode of Doctor Who was there. It was simple. It was one and done. It was funny. It was sad. It was exciting. I really enjoyed it as just an hour of entertainment. It was fun. I fucking even loved the song, and I like that every time they had to do it, and
he had to do it every time they played the song. He had to sing, do the dance and routine.
Ring-a-ding, which okay, I love the name too, Mr. Ring-a-Ding. It sounds like an really old Warner Brothers cartoon,
mm-hmm.
or like shit Marvin,
the Fleischer cartoons.
Fleischer, yeah, it could be a Fleischer, or Seeger. I'm thinking Seeger did Popeye. It really reminds me of that company, but that's the same company. Popeye and Superman Fleischer were made by the same. They were the Fleischer, and I really liked it. It really had that feel. Alan Cummings is another twofer guy. I want to see him team him up, Mr. Ring-a-Ding and
King James.
But I really enjoyed, and I liked it that my wife could actually name one of the actors in a Doctor Who when they appeared on screen.
Yep.
Because Linus Roche, who was on Law and Order for a decade.
He was also in one of my favorite movies, Pandemonium, which is one of the only two good movies about.
Is that Kevin Bacon fucked up?
No. This is it's a film about the first generation romantic poets, where he plays Coleridge, and John Hannah plays Wordsworth. I love that film, but he's also Thomas Wayne in Batman Begins. So it's like when he appeared on screen, I was like, this would have been.
I didn't recognize it because he stopped dyeing his hair.
I would have been this would have been in the trailer during the Chibnall era. Like we would have gotten, like he would have been like the guy, because he's such a presence. Like I was shocked that I had no idea he was going to be in this episode. Sorry to interrupt.
I've no idea who you're talking about.
If you walked in on your wife watches Law and Order, doesn't she, Jeff?
She has done, yes.
Okay, he was one of the assistant district attorneys on the main show and on Special Victims Unit. He plays an American. He's American. I thought he was American. I thought he was American until he was on the show for 5 or 6 years before I realized, what the fuck? He's not an American. He's English. Mm-hmm. His hair is different. It was really, I didn't realize it was him until she said, shit, that's Linus Roche.
Yep. No, I knew it right away. I was shocked.
And I really liked him. And it's like, here it would be a big deal. Yep. I think here it would be a bigger deal. Even though, Jeff, you guys have Law and Order ad nauseum running in repeats everywhere like we do. Jesus Christ. Why don't they just make a fucking Law and Order channel?
But that's the thing, is those are your two guest stars, Linus Roche and Alan Cumming. That is star power. That's star power.
And for the most, all the American accents were great, except the fucking kid at the soda fountain at the beginning.
What can you do?
The kid was it was okay. He was close. It was close, but it was.
I was going to ask, as has been a perennial theme on Gallifrey's Most Wanted.
The racist American
how does Doctor Who do American accents?
Extremely well,
normally.
Really, in modern Who, very well, because it's a skill set because people over here bitch. Why are all the stars English actors? Because they're the best actors, and the actors have to go where the work is. So they're either going to Hollywood or they're going to Bollywood. So
that's why we always play villains.
Yeah.
This is the main heroes in two different Walking Dead shows were English.
Mm-hmm. So, and this is like it's shocking to me. This is the 20th anniversary of Batman Begins, but he plays Bruce Wayne's father at the start.
I forgot
Batman
that
Begins.
was him in there.
And you know who else is in Batman Begins? Is the fugitive doctor, Jo Martin. Incredible. She also has a role at the sort of maybe she's in the second one. She's in one of the Batman movies. Anyways,
All right.
neither here nor there.
Oh, that's
I
cool.
love Linus Roach. Again, I was just over the moon.
Yeah, he was very good. It was a very small part, and he made a lot of it. I really enjoyed it. I got some niggles to pick after we've gone through, but I thought I'm liking. They have an arc. Well, she has an arc, but I kind of like that the stories are I feel more contained to me, a little more like we're trying for a one and done, or make the audience perceive it's a one and done, and then at the end of the season, oh, it's all tied together. But I don't know. That may be my perception, but I enjoyed it. So we'll go to you next, Melvin. What was your take on it?
I loved it. I absolutely. It took me. I watched it 3 times now. A couple times. Once yesterday morning with coffee, which that's the first time. I was telling y'all on the Signal chat. Like, it's the first time I've ever watched Doctor Who.
Yeah, because when is it dropping, Melvin?
Under the influence. It drops around. I think it's like 2 a.m. or something like that. Because isn't it drop on iPlayer at 8 a.m. or something like that? It's something like that.
Yeah.
So I watched it. I just watched it first thing in the morning just because I wanted to be able to sit with it for a while. But yeah, no, so I've watched it 3 times. I watched it again last night and then again this morning, and it really it's kind of strange and interesting because you said that you liked it because it was simple. I thought it was extremely complex. But in a way where
it felt simple. Simple.
The story, you can get it one way or the other, but there's a lot going on, like a lot going on here. And this episode, I was a little bit surprised last week and a little bit, I don't know if the word is disappointed, but that usually anyone who's listened to our podcast regularly, like shout out to Millie in New Zealand, right? Who makes the little, used to make the little clay dolls. I know she listens.
Oh, yes.
But anyone who regularly listens to us knows that at least once an episode, I'm going to be moved to tears by something. And like last week, I wasn't. And I was kind of a little bit surprised by that. And so I was thinking about that all week long, especially when we were talking about, and it's come up on a lot of different podcasts, like that we're not, quote, people aren't sure who this doctor is, or that there's something that is inconsistent about the way that Ncuti plays the doctor. But I've been thinking more about that this week as well. And this episode really brought home to me that Ncuti's doctor, he is who he is. And that's something that it's not on him to be the doctor that I expect. It's for me to accept that this is the doctor who he is. And that sort of all over the mapness is part of his doctor. I'm reminded of this week thinking about that, because it's weird. After I watched it the second time last night, I sort of let the iPlayer go and it defaulted me to Rose. And so the first thing I watch after the episode is over of Lux is Rose. And I'm like, Eccleston is not the same doctor as Jodie. I mean, that seems like a very simple and obvious thing to say. Eccleston does not play the doctor the same way as David Tennant. Either time that David Tennant plays the doctor, or all 3 times David Tennant plays the doctor, he doesn't do it the same way Matt Smith does. And even Matt Smith, I was thinking about that, like his first episode when he's sitting down with Amy in the kitchen, she's like, you eat weird stuff. And he's like, new mouth, new rules. And that was always the way that was one of the most refreshing things to me about the Matt Smith doctor, is that he could do it in his own way. He could interpret the doctor in his own way. And there are things that we associate with the doctor, but like, again, really, really rethinking, and especially because they sort of go through this experience together, he and Belinda. And she says, sorry, this is going to make me cry. She says there at the end, like, you know, he asks her if she trusts him. And she says, I didn't before, but I want you to know that the things we said when we were scared, that I still mean them, and that we need to face these things together. And I'm like, that it was weird that it took Belinda saying that to convince me that I've been misreading Ncuti's doctor, and maybe willfully, maybe I've willfully been not accepting him as the doctor in the way that he has chosen to play it, in the way that RTD has chosen to write it. So that was extraordinary to me about this episode also. But like, again, just very sorry I've gone into all this detail, but like, basically I loved it, and we'll talk about why. So sorry to keep going on and on.
All right, Jeff, what's your take?
Just going back to what you said, whether a willful misinterpretation, or is that the path that you've been led down by the way that it's been written, scripted, and the general tone of Doctor Who, which I've struggled to grasp myself. And I said last week, I'm struggling to get a grip on this Doctor. But
Mhm.
what I'm struggling to get a grip on, it was the universe as a whole, the
Yes.
way the Doctor Who universe has become.
Yep.
And I think last night really actually helped me
Yes.
understand this universe, because
It's a very
this is
different universe now,
Yes.
isn't it?
Yep.
it's the universe of the Pantheon.
Yep.
And we are suddenly delving into the Seventh Doctor's war against the Old Ones again, and we're
The
seeing
Gods of
things like
Ragnarok. I just watched
Gods of Ragnarok,
I thought
Fenric.
I just watched Greatest Show in the Galaxy the other day. Finished up watching that Blu-ray set,
Well,
and I
didn't
thought of
that
that.
time in well with this story and its allusion to Doctor Who fans as
Yes.
well?
Yep.
I love
which
that. So
Yep.
I didn't hate it, which
Nope.
I thought I might. The first second that scene started, I was like, oh no. But I think it was handled really, really well.
they did the little pick at us and tease us, but they were braver. They were brave
Yep.
characters that they had information.
They have learned from the Doctor, which
Yep.
we are all meant to do as fans,
Exactly.
I
Yep.
think. But
They were sincere also. They weren't being made fun of.
Yeah, no.
I mean, it was playfully teasing, but like they were
playful.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's it.
But yeah, please, Jeff, continue.
There's only one show in the existence of TV that can get away with doing that and be immediately forgiven and then become sort of praised for doing
Yep.
that. And that's Doctor Who.
Doctor Who.
Only Doctor Who can play with its own format.
Yep.
And understanding that helps me understand where RTD's head is at. And
Yep.
all of these fourth wall breaks, which up to now have felt so out of place,
Mhm.
suddenly become more in place, because what he's doing is blending fiction, reality. I wouldn't be surprised if we didn't turn out that we've been in the world of fiction all along.
Or jumping in and
Probably since the Mind Robber, knowing the way that Sutek panned out.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, we need.
Doctor Who can be self-referential, and we
Yes.
spend so much time not just analysing the show, the universe, the consistency, the canon, but also the people who work behind the show, the actors, the producers, the writers, the people who write the music. And also Murray Gold did an excellent job just mentioning music, and it's very rare that I heap praise on Murray Gold. But the tone of the music was so in
judicious.
keeping with animation, what the format they were playing with. It worked really well. I think this is my favorite Shooty episode by quite a long mark.
Wow.
And I think that a lot of this is actually to do with Belinda and his chemistry, as opposed. I loved Ruby. I thought she was really good, and I think Millie did an excellent job. But she didn't suit this Doctor.
No.
Much like Pearl Mackie when she turned up as Bill, really suited Peter Capaldi a far lot better than Jenna Coleman as Clara, who had suited
Matt
Smith Doctor a lot better, I think. Some people may disagree with me on that. That's fair enough. But I think Belinda and Shooter's Doctor work.
There's a real chemistry there, and she is the one that's fueling it, which is, I mean, again, like last week we were talking about it, and I listened to sort of my favorite podcasts over the course of the week, and people were saying that that Verita Setu was acting circles around Shooty, which, I mean, we can take that for what it's worth, but I feel like it's she is the main character in a way that we sort of really haven't seen since Rose. Like, she is the focal character. So that's another thing about the who is Shooty's Doctor thing. Like, we are much more in her way of perceiving. Like, we are being led through this adventure through her, and I feel like we're doing it in a way that is more complete, that is more mature. And I mean, that is to do with RTD. Like, I mean, it's been 20 years since Rose, and I feel like we see that on the screen right now.
Yeah.
But I want to.
Can I just
Yeah,
can I
please. I'm
just
sorry. I
say
interrupted again.
before I forget to make this point, someone said on Blue Sky yesterday about the Barbara Wright energy,
Mhm.
especially the way she won't take the first Doctor's flummery. Let's say
Yep.
flummery. But I'm getting Barbara Wright energy, and that's never a bad thing with the
Mhm.
Doctor Who
No,
companion.
I
Last
like.
week I said Sarah Jane, but now I see
Yeah,
Barbara's
yeah,
through and
I,
through.
I think I see that she's one of those stronger, more forceful companions. They have a good energy. They're really good. I like Shooty so much. I wasn't as bad as you were, Jeff. Like last week, where you said you don't know what to make of them. I think they're letting it be about her at the beginning of this arc, and we're going to see more. I got that feel from this. They're allowing it to be about the companion, and she's so good. Let it be about it. But their chemistry's good. I like that they're not. I'm going to say this, and I'll give the floor back to Melvin. I want to do this while I'm remembering it. I like that they're dealing with the racism
Yes.
of an era.
Yep.
They're not doing this. Oh, we'll blend in. No one will notice that we're black. It's Miami in the 50s. They're not, they're not going to give a shit. They're going to be racist. And they don't beat it over your head. It's just that they both have to go. We have to be prepared that we're not allowed certain places here.
Yep.
Especially a movie house like that. It would be, oh no, you wouldn't be unless you were up in the balcony. They would keep it segregated. I like that. And I like that Miami kind of energy that they actually did it. That theater looks very Miami, because Miami has a very Cuban. Some areas have a very Caribbean or Cuban look, because there are a lot of Cubans in Miami. So I liked it. I mean, I just all that was good. I'd like to see a little more the Doctor by himself going forward at times. It doesn't need to be all about him, but I would like to, I'd like to see more. But it was a perfect balance in this one. And they were a good double act. Especially in the action thing, like he's delegating, go burn the damn place, blow the place up. I'll be fine while he kills me. So I got it. All right, Melvin. I hope I didn't step on your toes.
No. I mean, I definitely want to come back around to the racism thing, but before we sort of get to that, I want to pull on one of the strings and sort of have a little conversation about what Jeff led with, which is that like coming to terms with this Doctor in terms of what this universe is, because that's another thing that I was just nodding my head furiously the entire time you were talking, and I just sort of wanted to have a little conversation about that because yeah, no, that's another thing that occurred to me thinking about this, the few times that I watched it, is that it feels like RTD, if this is the last time we're going to have Doctor Who for a while, that he is like opening this new box and that he will close it before it is done. That this is a different, like, this is the universe of and we get those little flashbacks to like bring people in who might not necessarily have watched last season, but it's still in a friendly way where you can say, here are some things that we've done in the past, so you can go check them out if you want to. But like, look, we've already fought the Toymaker, we fought the God of Death, we've fought Maestro, like that. And one of the things that he brings up continually, which is very important to all of this stuff, is that he says, you are honor bound to give me an answer to my question, that there are rules here, that it's not just completely whatever happens. And I feel like that is really, like, it's a good thing, it's a cool thing. It's not only for the plot of this episode, but it's also for people who are watching. This is like, it's for an audience thing to say, look, there are rules here that have to be obeyed. So no matter how out of control things get, and by like the halfway point where they're confronting Mr. Ringading, and then they turn into cartoons, and then you go into the sort of real world with the Doctor Who fans, and then they're stopping film, and like it gets so out of control. But there's always the rules that have to be followed, and those, I feel like RTD setting guide rails for. It's not just whatever happens. It's like there are things here that in this particular world, in the way that we are doing Doctor Who right now, there is a way to circumscribe this. There is a way that things have to make sense, and he as the writer is letting you know that it's not only for the villains and the heroes to interact within this world where there are rules, but also for the writer. He's saying, look, I am setting out, this is what this world is, and this is how we're going to play these, how we're going to do this during this era. And I have a lot of time for that because I feel like Chibnall got that chance during Flux. I feel like Moffat got that chance during his era. RTD, when he started, was like, here's the Time War. Here are the limitations of this character. And he even told us, like, this is, 20 years ago in 2005, that this show is about the companion, And when Moffat came, he made it sort of more about the Doctor. And RTD is telling us again, this is about the companion. Like, we again, like, in terms of like, can we get who Ncuti is, like, or I don't feel like I get a grip on this Doctor. It's because we're seeing it through, again, we're seeing it through the companion. Like, we're trying to understand, how does this world work, and it works in the way that he's telling us that it works. And so a part of that is like, it's on us. He tells us this stuff repeatedly, whether it's on screen or in, obviously you get folks who'll be like, well, I shouldn't have to watch Doctor Who Unleashed with Stefan Powell to understand the plot, but it's in the show as well. And so that's one of the things I wanted to talk about with y'all is, what do we make of this universe where there are, quote, gods or extra sort of luminary beings that, in other words, like, what do you make of that? What do you think about that? Like, for me, understanding that, again, when he said it in this episode, it just made it sat a lot better with me. Like, yeah, we haven't seen Ncuti a lot. People say that, he was missing for most of last season, and that affected his portrayal of the Doctor. I don't think it did. I feel like they're doing this the way that they're doing it. And like, it's on screen. They're telling us what the rules are.
Yeah. I'm going to jump in on the God thing. I was very happy when he brought the Toy Maker and Maestro and all that, because I'm a person, I like it. Modern Who, sometimes the Doctor knows way too much. He's never discovering something, and he's scared every once in a while, but I like, because one of my favorite Jodie ones is Can They Hear Me?
Yes. Can you hear me?
And I like those, and they bring up the Guardians, the Eternals, and the things. And then what was the second episode last year where it's just Tennant and Donna on the spaceship, and the ship had gone too far out.
Wild Blue Yonder.
Wild Blue Yonder.
Yes.
That someone had popped the seal.
Yep.
And shit from the beyond of the universe is coming in.
Which again sets up all of this universe.
And I think if that's going to be the overall theme of RTD2 is making the Doctor more vulnerable. But I love the rules like you do. You have to ask my question. You're bound by, because you're gods or larger build. You have rules set upon you that allow us, the little people, to defend ourselves. And I liked it. And I like the Harbinger thing. I was like, fuck yeah, I love it. He's building. So this is all part of a bigger game plan, and I'm digging it. And what I also like is Mrs. Flood is going to be in every episode, I think, this year, which is better, because I want to find out who the hell she is. I don't care who she is. I just want to find out who it is, because, I like her. I do like her. Even you don't know if she's good or bad. She seemed a little menacing at the end of last season, but who knows? I really dig the big gods. I mean, I'm a Ghostlight kind of guy. I like Galaxy, Greatest Show in the Galaxy, and stuff like that. I like the not Time Meddler, the Mind Robber. I like these aliens that I don't, because it's not American science fiction. It's like, I don't need to have a scientific reason for.
Well, and the Doctor says it too. He's like, again, it's one of those, it's part of that setting the rules. He's like, when the gods deign to look at you or deign to notice you, reality itself is at stake. And that is the rule, is like, that's the law of this this particular period of Doctor Who. And I feel like, as much as he's getting all these toys out of the toy box and setting things loose on us, that there's also a plan to like close that at the end of this era, whether that's Ncuti or whatever the plan is. And then the next person can take the rules and make them what they want. But like I love that idea that, you know, when the gods deign to look at us, that's when we're in trouble. And you're right that Shooty, you know, his doctor is sort of like has to make it up as he goes along, which feels very doctorish for this doctor.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, Jeff, I interrupted you. You look like you were gonna
No.
speak on that.
I've just been listening to what you've all been saying. It's interesting, isn't it? There are moments where Doctor Who's tonal shift marks like a big change in the show, and I don't think I noticed it happening. Yet it started with the 60th celebrations, and when it starts carrying on into it, you suddenly go, yeah, okay. I see. I'm starting to see how this universe now makes sense. I want to know where we're going to end up with this. This has now got me invested in knowing how I can fit this version of Doctor Who in with all of the rest of it, because I have a sort of continuing running. My interest in Doctor Who is the stories, the universe. I like the behind the scenes stuff, but really I'm here for the stories. I'm here for the escapism. I'm here, and this is escapism on the nth degree. And having this pantheon and not knowing who all of the pantheon are, it's fascinating. Could we see something akin to or being the Mara? Could we, the god of dreams, you know? Because dream state is such a visceral thing. I wouldn't be surprised if this all ended up being this was real, but it wasn't really real, but it was really real kind of situation. Because Doctor Who can do that. And go, yes, it happened, but no, it didn't happen, but yes, it did happen. Doctor Who does this all the time to our brains. They did it with the Time War, and it's interesting. In a lot of my sort of fan art, I use the Time War as an excuse to bring back older entities back into the Doctor Who universe in the pictures I was making. So I brought back the Black Guardian, I brought back Namara, I brought back Omega. And so this, now it's starting to sink into place. For me, from the storytelling element, I'm starting to really starting to vibe with it. I still don't like some of the things that happened last season, but in this universe, things like the Maestro and Lux and babies that can speak and roll around in little wheelchairs and have snot monsters, and all of this just makes much more sense to me now. And I get very much the point of the Doctor is supposed to be an unknowable character. And part of the appeal of the Doctor is this mysterious being who takes us and tells us these stories. I do need him to stop calling absolutely everyone under the sun babes. He can give it a rest for some people. But I feel much more comfortable now, I think, than I did. I was getting to the point where I was like, this is becoming the program that I don't want to get caught watching again, a little bit. But now, all of a sudden, it feels like the box has opened for me, and I can see what's inside a little bit more, little bit clearer. And that's a good thing. As a Doctor Who fan, you don't want to be at odds with your favourite show. I still think there is an element of trolling that comes from what RTD does. And that still rubs me up the wrong way a little bit, because fans of the show kept its memory alive for such a long time, and he was an integral part of that. He was writing new adventures, you know. He kept Doctor Who's memory alive, so he was one of those people who fights for Doctor Who. And I don't think the people that fight for Doctor Who and have intelligent, rational conversations about the themes and tones of a TV show should always have the sort of finger pointed at them and be told you're looking too much into a TV show. Because at the end of the day, in the world that we live in, we need that element of escapism. We need to be able to go, I'm not embarrassed about being a fan of this show and spending time with other like-minded fans of this show talking about it and talking about it on Twitter and Blue Sky. There are some who take it to the nth degree and go far too far. I get that. But I think RTD maybe could be a little bit kinder to some of us and not lump us all into that same category. Not all Doctor Who fans are actively trying to accuse it of being woke, accuse it of being anything other than it's always been. Which is our favorite TV show that we want to enjoy. That's my only word of caution. But as to where the Doctor universe is now, I'm a very happy boy at the moment.
I want to bring something up is what I'm thinking too, and this is going to tie into, you know, Davies like continuity. Like, you know, when he brought it back, he said, "I'm not rebooting it. I'm not erasing stuff. That's not my thing."
Mm-hmm.
I want to ask you something is, I think he may be tying this in that this universe is still damaged from the flux. That when a big chunk of the universe was destroyed, something had to fill this void. And it may be the elder gods that these in Marvel comics, they have it, you know, there's the Grandmaster, there's Infinity, these things that are the living embodiment of concepts. You know, this is the god of light. The Celestial Toymaker is the god of games. Maestro is the god of music. We could have,
but they're all gods. Sorry,
not God, but no higher beings.
No. But you just got me thinking. They're all gods of what it is to be human.
Yes, they're just some aspects of humanity, and that's kind of what the things in DC calls it: the Lords of Chaos, the Lords of Order. You know, that there are agents of chaos and order for specific things. In Marvel, it's, you know, Galactus. All these big giant buildings look like Galactus, who's going to be the villain in New FF is. He's the last survivor of the previous universe, and his job is to spend eternity eating this universe and then dying and then going on to the next one. You know, as a punishment or as whatever. But I think, and that's what I hope that's all kind of tied in. Is there a reason why the gods are loose? And is it something that Doctor did? Because
or is it the boundaries between what we know as our reality and the universe that sits beside us half a second in the future? You know, these multiple universe theories. Talking about Marvel have done Crisis on Infinite Earths and all of these things, and all of comics have been doing this for decades and decades and decades. And I wonder if we have slipped sideways with the Mavity change and things like that. You know,
I'm hoping so. It's kind of what I was thinking when we had an elder god or whatever we're calling these beings in again this episode. I went, oh, he's not done with that theme. I thought that theme was last season. So
and that's one of the things.
That's what I really liked. I went, this has made me happier.
Yeah,
I got a goosebump with the da 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 da. I got goosebumps. So
the little song he sings, his laugh, which was just an arpeggio, the way he sang it, but it did bring to mind, for whatever reason, like Woody Woodpecker, who has that.
Yeah.
But he's the way he sings it. It's just like a.
Well, that's it. Don't make me laugh. You don't make me laugh. You don't want to make me laugh. You don't want to make me.
But to tie all those things together, what you were talking about the flux, it definitely is one of the things that I'm thinking, and was one of the things I was referring to earlier, is that it feels like RTD. You know, when I said he was going to sort of close the box at the end of this run, again, whether that's his run as showrunner or the Shooty era or whatever, that that it feels like he's cleaning up Doctor Who for the next caretaker. Like, I feel like, yes, you know, whatever the flux, you know, that is, and weirdly, I feel like the flux is actually addressed in this episode, because as they're standing up the Doctor Who fans and wishing him, you know, farewell and telling him to go on his way, like there's a poster of Flux behind Lizzie. I think I saw a poster of Flux, and it was funny because there was, on the other wall, there was a poster from Dot and Bubble of one of the man-eating slugs. Aside from the fact that you can see the Blu-ray collection is on the shelf behind them. But it feels like he's taking a lot of the things from quote new Who, whatever we want to call it, and again, it feels like he's cleaning it up. It feels like he's wrapping it up to put it in a bow, to put it in a box, so the next caretaker has a fresh start. So yeah, I feel like, yeah, even if they don't say the flux or whatever, that there will be a moment of, and it's something that actually happens at the end of this episode, is like that they don't defeat Mr. Ring-a-Ding. They apotheosize him. They restore him to the universe. Like, yes, they sort of defeat the monster, but like they don't kill him, they don't banish him, they make him one with the universe, which is, that's kind of incredible. And I sort of feel like that is sort of one of the things that this new RTD2 era is about, Ross, is about reconciliation. It's about all of these things that he has set up since 2005, inclusive to today, through the Moffat era, through the Chibnall era. We're just going to wrap this up so that the next person has a clean slate. That is where I feel that this is tending.
I'd be good with that. I think that's because I'd like it to be tied. Me the hater of the finales, almost every time nowadays, is that they can tie it up. But I like the way we're going with the season. I think last season, for the most part, we loved all of it. I mean, we're really, the messaging, everything. We really did get a lot out of it. Maybe not exactly what he wanted, but we all got it, and we all were a little. Me probably the most at the end, like, can you not make it? I may be going, I'm glad this one is going to be about the universe, but it's about the elder god part of it, how these creatures are now they're running rampant. This is bad, and the Doctor's going to have to, there's a reason he likes to avoid them, because he can't control, there are rules, but there's also an element of chaos. There's
because chaos. That's the thing. That's how Mr. Ring-a-Ding, remember, comes into the world. It's not malice aforethought. There's a moonbeam that hits a coffee spoon.
Oh my God, I love that.
I'm like, it's so random and chaotic and beautiful the way that this happens. But it's also, again, it's not about malice. It's not about the gods coming to attack us. This is what I do. This is just what happened.
Yeah. And the gods are only doing their role. It's like, I have no other role. It's like the toy maker. This is all I do. This is all I can do. These gods are not just who they are, but what they represent. They're avatars, the embodiment of things. And because they're all powerful and have been trapped away, kind of like the Doctor is, they don't have, you know what I mean? The Doctor's bigger than the humans, and here are creatures that are bigger than the Doctor.
Mm-hmm.
And that's kind of what I like. And that's why I've always liked him. Some of my favorite stories are the ones where he goes up against beings that he's like, I have no idea how I'm going to beat them. They can bend time. I can't, and change reality. I'm as limited as you are. I'm as limited as the human is in this battle, except I have a little more knowledge, and that's it.
But of course, given and we know very early on, RTD said, look, I'm not forgetting what Chris Chibnall has done with Doctor Who. And then he's never made it particularly apparent. I'm not just thinking about the flux. I'm thinking about the Timeless Child and the fact that the Doctor is not a Time Lord.
Mm-hmm.
Despite his claims and ownership of the title of being a Time Lord, he's not from our universe.
Mm-hmm.
And I wonder where that comes into play. Is the Pantheon trying to return the Time Lord back to actually his own state, their own state?
Well, we haven't met the embodiment of time.
Yeah.
We haven't met someone. We haven't.
Well, we have.
Well, we did. Yeah.
Yes, we did.
Looked like Jodie.
Yeah. Jodie met the embodiment of time.
That's right. Yeah.
And that was really the first sort of hint into where Russell T Davies has gone now.
What were their names? I want to call them Dot and Bubble. Sasha. Now I want to call them Sasha and what were their names? Slade and Emerald, Ruby and the
Swarm and Azure.
Swarm and Azure. Yes, that's who they served was time.
Yeah, I enjoyed last week. I really did. I do, and I make fun of incels all you want. I don't care. It just, my heart doesn't go out to them.
Can we talk about the trolling really quick? I want to go back to that, what Jeff was saying about trolling Doctor Who fans, because I really sort of want to talk about that critical sequence where they become cartoons and then they end up in our world, and like how he looks at and treats Doctor Who fans. I just sort of wanted to, because it feels also like, you know, not only is he wrapping, like RTD is sort of wrapping up sort of Doctor Who as we've known it for the modern period, but also sort of like rectifying things that, or rectifying or changing or revisiting things that people haven't liked or have critiqued about Doctor Who. Like if he's trolling anybody in that first like fan sequence, it's Moffat. Like he's literally making fun of
He's
Moffat
trolling.
to
He's trolling.
his face. So that
He's
Moffat's
trolling all
watching Doctor
three
Who
of them.
and he's like, "Oh my god, he's making fun of me specifically." But then
I think
you
he's
get
making fun of all of them. I think he's making fun of all three of them. He's going, guys, this is what we were.
But it's also an echo
we
of
got to do the show.
It's also an echo of the Wi-Fi out sequence in what was that? Was it Revolution of the Daleks or Resolution, where the show stops for a second and the family is like, "Wait, we don't have Wi-Fi. What are we supposed to do? Talk to each other?" And so everyone's made fun of that. But I feel like this is sort of like an echo of that scene. So I just wanted to get your take on, again, how this episode looks at and treats Doctor Who fans.
I think he was very sweet about it. We are that way. We can be that way. They know more. He's smiling at them. He's like, you know what? She's talking more than he is.
Mm-hmm.
And I think he was. It was the perfect level of teasing.
Yeah,
because he's one of us. He was that kid. You know.
The ultimate trolling of Doctor Who fans is making the companions set fire to a room full of film canisters. That is the ultimate. Because thank goodness it was 52. Because
or who is it? Lizzie
please let
says,
one of them say Web of Fear episode 4 or something. You know what I mean?
Or who is it?
I bet
Lizzie, the one with the fez, when she says, "I've seen every episode." That's trolling Doctor Who fans.
Yeah. Yeah, I liked it. And I liked it. Well, you know, and here's the thing is, as I'm definitely the oldest one here, is we all got picked on. Being nerdy was not cool. Yeah. Okay. And I started my nerd journey in 1972. Mm-hmm. And I never give a shit. You know, people would go, if I got picked on, I was like, well, my two older brothers, one of them who will whoop your ass is just as nerdy as I am. So whatever. But growing up in that fandom, like I became friends with people older than me at the comic shop I worked at, and making friends was hard.
Yep.
When you were a nerd, because you didn't want to, unless you were like the kids in like a sitcom, all the nerds that get together, Revenge of the Nerds, or some of the other stuff, the teen comedies, 80s on up. And I liked it. The young lady who said, "I got to meet my two best friends." Robin. Yeah, I liked it because that's what it is. Is the fans always? Yep. It's the dream of every fan. Oh, how can I help you, Doctor? Here, I have information you don't have. Blah blah blah. I loved it. I don't think he was being mean, because him and Chibnall and Moffat were those kids.
Yep.
Because they're all my age. You know, I think I'm the same age as. I think I'm a little older than. No, I'm probably the same age as Moffat and them. So they were these fans, and they're all, you know, Davies is out there. I'm proud. You know, I'm proud to be a nerd.
I feel like that reading is right there. I feel like all three. I think those three characters are supposed to.
I want her Telos shirt, and I want his unit hoodie. Okay.
But yeah, I think they are supposed to mirror the three Doctor Who showrunners, and it's not supposed to be like a one-to-one correspondence, but like that idea that they found each other, that they set the rule, that they are helping the Doctor on his way, that they know all of this stuff, that they have like inside information that can help him. Like, and I also love that Robin, who was the one who said, I met my best friends because of this, is also the one who said hashtag RIP Doctor Who.
I think if we're going to assign
I almost died laughing when she
if
said
we're going to
that.
assign each one of them one of the creators, she's Moffat.
I can see that. I can see that.
The young lady with the Telos t-shirt,
and the fez.
She's Chibnall because she's a little sweeter, and she's, you know, and the guy with the scarf and the unit thing, that's Russell.
But again, it feels like we're speaking about gods, and we are in this extra universal place in this moment. So again, I want to sort of, now that we've talked about them, I want to talk about sort of like, let's pan out and look at that whole sequence from the moment they enter the cartoon realm to when they emerge with a plan, as it were, because it feels like this is sort of happening in the sort of, we were talking about It Takes You Away earlier, and there's that weird sort of interzone place in that episode, and that's sort of what this feels like, is that we're sort of outside of the universe, outside of the realm of normalcy. And it's weird to me, because as strange and as unusual as that whole sequence is, and as sort of bonkers as it is, I couldn't believe that they turned into cartoons. I couldn't believe that they then like became different kinds of, like, it wasn't just cartoons. Like the animation, we talked about it at the very beginning, it's beautiful, it's absolutely beautiful. And one of the guys in Unleashed who was doing the animation worked on Roger Rabbit. So this is like this interplay between real characters and cartoon is not new to him. Like this is that good in terms of the animation. But again, it's outside of our experience, it's outside of our universe, but it's where the most real, sorry, this is the part that's gonna make me cry, it's where the most real and honest things happen. And so I just sort of wanted to talk about that with y'all, because again, I talked about it earlier, I mentioned it, where the doctors, where Belinda tells him after, when they're going to defeat the creature, like, or no, it's after the creature is defeated. She's like, the things that we said when we were scared, which she could have said the things that happened when we were cartoons, or like, there's something like, she doesn't think of it that way. She doesn't say like when we were cartoons, or like during this bizarre sequence, it's when we were scared. And there's something about the flight into the imagination, into the cartoon world, into our obsessions with media, with Doctor Who, all this kind of stuff happens. It all happens in that sequence, and that's where the real stuff happens. So I just sort of wanted to get y'all's thoughts.
It's also where the most real reaction to black or brown characters comes as well. And it's only the mistake of the actual uniform that convinces them that no, this is not a real situation. Because
the mom was nice and now she's racist. That's not that lady. And he's like, your uniform is standard New York City cop, which in movies up to the 1950s you would always see a cop like that, and not it's like America cops look very different city to city, state to state. We all have our own little ticks and stuff. So that is not everybody dressed like that. And
which
I like
to the average viewer wouldn't be known
notice
either.
It. No, but it
certainly not in the UK.
No, and I didn't get it until he said so. I just thought it was lazy costuming, because they do it all the time. It's I've seen movies in English movies where someone's supposed to be an officer and he's wearing an enlisted man's uniform. I was like, Jesus Christ, our rank system's the fucking same. It's no difference. We even have the same number of stripes the same. But this one, it was like, I didn't even notice it until they told me. I started to during that sequence and pulling things. It was like, oh, come on, man, what's going on? But by the end, I go, you know what? It's a guy, it's this, it's that. I really love Mr. Ring-a-Ding a lot. I loved how he looked. Did you notice that he was little, he got bigger, and then when he became three-dimensional, he was almost textured, like his pants had texture.
He's so good.
And then it stops. Then he's a big giant cartoon again. As he gets more and more energy. I love that.
And that was what I meant earlier when I was like, it's not even just the cartoon. It's like they use several different styles of animation.
Oh, it went
between the like polygonal, like almost PlayStation when he's starting to turn, and then like fully rendered. It's like incredible the way that they switched between those modes. And I feel like there's something to be dug into there as well, in terms of like how quote real he can be, and the way that he sort of like harnesses the Doctor's regeneration energy to sort of make himself into a physical manifestation. But it's just like, again, this whole sequence from them, and again, them holding the frame so that until it burns, like just every different technique that they possibly could have used is in that sequence. And it's really amazing to me that the most emotional truth was during the sort of most fantastical sequence.
I like it. I also like that I think it's a little homage. There's a moment where where Shooty and the Doctor and Belinda are on either side of Mr. Ring-a-Ding. And it really felt like the dance sequence, and I don't think it's an American Paris, but there's a famous dance sequence where Gene Kelly dances with Tom and Jerry in a throne.
Yes. Yeah.
It really, that shot was like, it has to be a wink, wink, nudge, nudge to that. Because I really felt that feel. And that is one of the most amazing sequences of animation. And that they did it in like 1960, 1958, around that time, probably around the time this one's set. And I thought it was, I really liked it. I really, really liked it. And I didn't know how they're going to pull off the animation, because animation is expensive. It's easier to do now with computers, I bet, but they did a really wonderful job.
That's the other thing in the Unleashed. I mean, it was definitely technology and not necessarily pencil hand drawn animation, but they were hand drawing it on the computer. Like, it was hand drawn.
You still have to do that, but I mean, the time to finish it. The hard part of animation is what they call the texturing. And especially in some computer generated, because they had problems with water at first, so they didn't like to do water. They didn't like to do hair. Because it's so many individuals. You basically who have to, with AI now, you just teach it and it remembers from one design to another how to do it. But I just think it worked very well. And I liked that whole sequence. It bugged me at first, but as it went on, I went, okay, I like it more and more. And I love the movie house. So
it's an homage to film. It's an homage to filmmaking. And it's probably the best I've seen it done in a long time. It was so
for a
clever.
TV episode. If this isn't nominated at least for technical awards, like, I would not be surprised if this was like nominated for a Hugo, just in terms of technical achievement. Because I mean, it's, again, as we've been saying, it's hard enough to do animation and live action at the same time. I recently watched, and of course this is 25 years ago, an episode of Farscape where they did like a Looney Tunes sort of crossover, and it just looked so janky. But again, like, of course that was 25 years ago, but to be able to blend, again, not only the traditional 2D animation, but to have it go so seamlessly between different forms of animation, and then also to have the sort of burning effect and the pulling down the frame effect and the coming out of the, like, when Mr. Ring-a-Ding comes out of the screen in the beginning of the episode, and then the Doctor and Belinda come through the screen in the middle of the episode. Like, it's so technically dazzling in a way, but it seems completely natural, which I'm like, how did they do that? How did they make this just part of the episode?
30 years ago, I went to Florida and I saw Muppets 3D at Disney. And there's a bit where Fozzie comes out of the screen, very similar. And I was just immediately transported back to that. So they're really... that's how deep a tribute this is, that we're going to like those 3D effects that we used to see. And
I would have been neat if they were doing a 3D movie, because they would have been big in that, like, the late 50s, like that. I also want to think it's a power film, and we're forgetting. I'm glad we're coming back to this before we wrap up. Is the moment with Linus Roche's character and his dead wife. And that Mr. Ring-a-Ding gives him a moment with her, and she's black and white, and then she's color. That power of film. And the fellowship of film, like everybody's in the movie theater enjoying it in their own little bubble, and they're all like going, wow, how did they do that? The screen's talking back to us, blah, 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 blah. And there's something about, the community of watching something together. So all of it all adds up. I think they did a really good job. I think there's very few weak moments.
Well, I mean, that's the other thing, is that the Linus Roche character is also, I mean, that's we could explore that theme forever and ever. Is just like the love of the film collector, much less like the power of his sort of relationship with his wife who's passed on, the sort of strange codependent relationship he forms with Mr. Ring-a-Ding over the ensuing 3 months, where he's basically feeding him so that he can continue to see, like, since he's given him back his wife for short periods of time, that there's a sort of, and the sacrifice that he makes, which goes unremarked at the end, which is again, like the complexities begin to spiral almost out of control, because it's really weird to me how the denouement of the episode depends on, or the climax of the episode, or the resolution depends on the Mr. Pie being a smoker and Belinda noticing that he has nicotine marks on his hands, and so give me the matches. Like, the resolution depends on the guy being a smoker, that's kind of subversive. Which, for one, B, there's also all kinds of other, like, and I just want to get this stuff out there before we wrap up, because I don't know if we'll be able to discuss it at all, but like, there is all, I mean, you've gestured towards the sort of racial politics of the episode, which were very, very affecting to me, and I have not yet spoken about them. But like, I mentioned last week that we, had that moment in Rosa where one of the racist characters refers to Yaz as Mexican. Or I talked about it in a previous episode anyway. But here, the cop calls her Caribbean. And so she has to, like, the perception of how people are labeled. And I feel like that's an important part of this episode that's being emphasized for us to think about and chew on, especially. And the thing about this is that it feels very prescient, this episode, even though it was filmed a year ago and maybe written 2 years ago, that we're talking about, they make reference, the diner guy saying that in the immediate aftermath of the 15 people going missing, that there were rumors that Batista in Cuba had abducted them, and recruitment. Yeah. And so I was like, okay, I had to look that up. But Batista had seized control in a military coup in 1952, and sort of taken over the government by force. And and
then Castro rebelled against him. I remember some of that. Yeah, I'm old enough to remember some of it.
And then the matches, the match book is called Independence Matches. There's a lot of stuff again that's happening in this episode, especially again when they're talking about, yes, this is a chaotic god who is a mad god who is, could wreck reality, but he has to follow certain rules. And I'm like, to air that episode right now feels very on the nose, because obviously, not to hammer it too home, but this is one of the things that Doctor Who gives me, is a lens to understand and step back and really look at our world. And there's obviously, there's a dude who both of you may be familiar with, who our listeners will certainly be familiar with, who is on the news every day, breaking rules, higgledy-piggledy, and there are no guardrails. There is apparently no one who can stop the chaos and the madness. And I found that very on the nose and very relevant to right now. Aside from the fact that this aired on Easter weekend, and as the Doctor is being pulled away to have his regeneration energy stolen, Mr. Ringading says
hanging like a crucifix.
Mr. Ringading says this is the greatest story ever told. And I'm like, how did he do this?
Because
he orchestrate
he's doing
this
he's
2 years in advance?
Well, because he has been warning us about this shit well before it.
And the other part
speeches of him talking about it 10 and 15, and he did time and again, or time after time. That one. I can't even watch that one because I know it's like I can't see the movie Civil War, because I think he's just telling us what he's been trying to tell us. And he is using his bully pulpit to do it. And he's a storyteller. So I'm going to tell you with allegory and with, hide it in a nice, pretty little package of science fiction on a Saturday afternoon or whenever you watch it. Yeah. I like that. I think it's not like he saw the backslide coming, like a lot of people have been warning us. I think and I like that. I also get the fact that he's on, it's the difference in, like, whenever he goes to America, he's pointing to us, because I didn't see Southeast Asian people when I was a kid in the 60s. I mean, in the early 70s, that immigration wave came while I've been alive. So they were migrating after the partition to England. They weren't, they immigrated there. We had, and so I get it that they would mix, a stupid American in the South. Oh, she must be Mexican or from the Caribbean.
Yep.
because those mouth breathers it got brown sin. It's
Yep.
either black or Mexican.
Yep.
And
it's gotten worse and worse. Like, I've talked about it before, but since 2001, like I just sort of keep my eyes down because I don't know whether I'm going to be mistaken. Again, in the aftermath of September 11th, whether I was going to be mistaken for a terrorist. Like when I visited London in 2005, I actually got stopped in a tube station by cops who were, when they gave me the little sheet to tell me I could go on my way after I showed them my papers, they were like, I saw the sheet that they get. I still have it in one of my file folders just to remind me that I have to be alert at all times. But it was like reason for detainment, terror act of 19 or 2001 or whatever. And I'm like, people think I'm a terrorist, and it's exactly what you're saying, Ross. People don't know, and so they fear what they don't know. And like now, like every time I leave the house, and again, forgive me if I said this last episode, I said it afterwards to when I was talking to Jeff, but like now I leave the house and I'm like, if I look at the wrong white dude the wrong way, I could end up in an El Salvadoran prison. Like it's terrifying out there. And like, again, I may have been I can't remember if it was the first or second time I watched it, but there's a line where Shooty says, he uses the vindicator, which is a great word for it, the vortex, whatever, to anchor, to triangulate the position to 2025. And he's like, we keep bouncing off it. We're here in 1952. But when he tells Belinda at the end, is like, I'm afraid there's something wrong with 2025. And I'm like,
and the date he gives, 2024, that's when that episode's going to air. He's using a market trick where I know when writing dates, so it ends on that date. He knows when it's going to drop.
But even just in a sort of, vague sort of way to say, I think there might be something wrong with 2025. And I'm like, maybe there is.
Yeah. No, it's I'm glad. One thing I like, he is reminding us of this and of other things. And at least he's doing it like this one was fun.
Yeah.
And dark. It had a lot of all I want. It had a little bit of preachy. I want a message in my story on some level or another. Be nice to each other. Don't be a dick, to help each other. I mean, that's all a message in it. Any story is telling you that. I mean, most stories have, something you can learn from. But this one had the cartoon. It's something we've all experienced. Yeah. Everybody's grew up with a cartoon, a weird cartoon song. That's actually better than most old cartoon songs. So
slightly less racist anyway. So
yeah.
Yeah.
And of course, the flip side of that, I don't mean to be completely dark, because the Doctor also points a way out of it when they're sitting there in the diner. Belinda's like, but this is crazy that they wouldn't let us sit, at the counter or whatever. And the Doctor
he didn't kick him out when they walked in.
Yeah, and the Doctor's like, hold that, pause that, because we've got. One of the Doctor's things is like, we are here. There's something in front of us. We need to deal with this right now. We can't deal. I can't deal with racism right now. And what he says literally to her is, I have toppled worlds, and sometimes I wait for people to topple their own. And till then, God, I fucking love. This was when I was like, okay, Shooty. And again, I don't know why I keep having to have this moment of, okay, Shooty is the Doctor, where he's like, till then, till they topple their own world, till then, I live in it and I shine. And I'm like, that is the lesson. That's the takeaway.
I do. That's a good point. And he's the Doctor. So me and Jeff have been talking about Doctor Who now, 6 years, whatever, more.
Yeah.
So, yeah. And the one thing is, the Doctor lands and he starts a revolution by the first person he meets who becomes his companion, whether it be a nurse, a greengrocer, a shop girl. They're going to lead the rebellion. I'm just going to put a fire under their butt.
It's Vicky calling for revolution in the Space Museum. It's Vicky's moment, The smallest people can make the biggest difference, and that's what Doctor Who has always taught us. And that normal people make the difference, not the gods, not the Doctor, just people, just people. And
that's the thing that can go unseen in this episode again with Mr. Pye, is that it's him who defeats Mr. Ringading. Yeah, it's just a normal guy who lost his wife.
Yeah, he blew himself up to save the world. I mean, I'm for me, Russell, keep pointing out shit, please, because eventually maybe you'll get through to some meathead who hasn't gotten through. It's not gotten through to, but just
And
uh,
it's not the core of the story.
No,
no, it's
It's
just
the
no, and that's
world
the
in
it's
which they
just
live
yes,
in.
yep,
It's
yeah,
not the core of the story, because really the core of this story is about keeping memory alive.
hmm
And that film allows us to do that. And I think here as Doctor Who fans, where we have lost so many of the people that have meant so much to us over the years, but film keeps their memory alive, and the
yeah,
preservation of it, and the retention of it, and the spreading of it, and the talking about it, and the celebrating it, and it keeps people alive, long past where their physical existence has ended and they've returned to the universe. Because what I'm not a religious person. I don't particularly have faith. My faith is one that lies in the return, the creation from the universe and the return to the universe. That is all I need, is to know that when I'm not here anymore, I'm back as part of the universal space dust from which I am created. And so the ending of this episode really landed for me, because that's kind of where my faith is not in gods, not in deities, and that even gods are subject to the whim of the vast unknowing expanse of the universe, and that we all get to be a part of that, and we're all made from the same dust, we're all made from the same elements, and that just because the place that we were born was sunnier or cloudier or rainier, in my case, than somewhere else in the world, that's our only difference. Our differences are driven by the part of the world that we grew up in, and that is it. And that is it. And that it's such a superficial difference that actually there is a bigger picture out there. Maybe that was the core of the story then. Maybe that was the core of the story, that people are people, and we are all special in our own ways, and we are all linked in our own ways as well.
yeah.
and that's exactly, like, again, we could talk about all these things and really flesh them out for a long, long time, but that's again, and it wasn't necessarily like a rebuttal, Ross, at the very beginning, where you said this was a simple story, and I was like, I thought this was a complex story, because it's both. And that
Yeah,
is
it is. I
that's
mean, that's
amazing
what
that
good
this
storytelling
can
is that,
contain that much.
yeah.
So I mean,
Because
because you were saying this may or Jeff, I can't remember, was saying this is your favorite Shooty episode at the beginning. Jeff, yeah, no, that's another one of the things, that sort of conclusions I came to, watching it a few times, and especially, like, again, sitting down and being able to talk with y'all and hash this sort of stuff out. It's like, I'm convinced this may be an all timer. Like, this may be an all timer. Like,
yeah,
look, when we look back as to, like, not only what it contains and how it contains it and how it executes, and the content, like the visual content, the thematic content, the, like Ross, you were saying at the beginning, like, it's a sort of one and done also, like, it has so much going on, that I feel like this is one that we can and will return to over and over and over again, and, like, unpack. I mean, I'm sitting here thinking, I need to see, like, I think her name is Sophie Cowdery, who's one of the production designers, because
Yes.
she always
yeah,
will post, like, little things that she's done for an episode. Like, I need to see their shelf, because I'm sure there's going to be Big Finish on there. I'm sure there's going to be novels on there. Like, because I could see from a distance the collection box sets, the Blu-ray sets, which I just, like, thought that was beautiful.
yeah. I'm gonna have to
Uh,
rewatch it so I can
or
see
the
that.
poster of Dot and
Was,
Bubble, or the other poster, which I'm almost sure was a Flux poster. But it's so rich. This episode is so rich, but it's also, you can watch it knowing nothing. I feel like you could watch this knowing nothing about Doctor Who, and, like, be sort of,
yeah.
like,
That's a
really
good.
sucked into the entire world of it in a
I'm
way
glad
that doesn't feel very specialized.
I want to agree with you. I like you brought that point up, because I thought last week, I think in some ways this is a better this season maybe a little bit better a jumping on point for fans, new fans, than last year would, even though the Doctor is already time traveling and chasing her down. You know what I mean? He's looking for her. I think you could give to someone. I mean, this isn't like a 11th hour or the pilot, you know, where it's not a reboot, but it's a good entry thing. Jody's is that way too. I think Jody's would work that way, just because she's, you know, she fell through a ceiling. You don't, who is this person that fell through a ceiling? You know, I think maybe that's kind of what I'm feeling here, is that a little bit of that is he's giving you a fresh start at the beginning of this season too.
I said last week that the Robot Revolution felt like a better introduction to this than Space Babies had, and I think this is probably stronger than the Maestro episode. Certainly more. It's as out there and as weird, but probably more accessible, because unless you're a big fan of music, which not everyone is, maybe the themes and the things that were picked on in the Maestro episode would be a bit more exclusive, and a bit
you had
less
to rely on
conducive to a large and sort of jumping on.
Even though everybody knows who the Beatles are, or has some concept of it.
Yeah, but
this one is just a made-up
cartoon.
Yeah. And this is just a cartoon. It's not a cartoon, but we all knew what they were referencing. We all kind of had an idea. Is it early Disney? Is it early Warner Brothers? Is it early Is it Fleischer?
Even to the point that actually, when Belinda and the Doctor first get animated, they look like the Scooby-Doo characters. And so
they do.
They've
been
like referring to themselves as Velma.
One of my
Velma and Fred.
favorite Doctor Who lines of all time is, she goes, "You're Scooby-Doo." And he goes, "I am Velma."
But yeah, no, they definitely that style of animation is very different to the Mr. Ring-a-Ding style, where it definitely has a more Hanna-Barbera feel to it.
Yeah. So it just felt like a massive tribute to all those things we grew up with, including the very show that we're here to watch.
Which again, that Russell can juggle all of that stuff in a 45-minute episode it's extraordinary. It's extraordinary. And again, I feel like this one, you know, not only for technical reasons, but also like the way it's written, the way it's executed, I feel like it's definitely going to be, I hope, and I feel like it should be shortlisted for awards. I think it's that great of just an overall achievement in science fantasy television. Like, it's just incredible.
All right, folks. Hey guys, this has been a good conversation, but let's kind of wrap it up. I'll start with overall, I really liked it, and I'm looking forward to it. It's a scary space one. I got advice. No, I like a scary space one. Some of my favorite ones are those, like Oxygen in Capaldi's era, and
Midnight.
Yeah, I like a spooky space station or a asteroid where, you know, you can't just walk outside. You're trapped. That alien kind of thing. I'm looking forward to it. And I'm going to give my recommendation. My recommendation would be Paradise again, folks. I finally finished it, honest to God. It's one of the best thrillers and one of the best science fiction shows I've ever seen. It is so well made. And everybody should check it out. It's only 8 episodes, and you will not regret the ride, because you're going to be, every cliffhanger, you're going to go, what the fuck did I just see? What the fuck? And it's great. It's amazing. All right, Jeff, what about you?
I'm still on my Resident Alien kick. It made me laugh harder than anything has made me laugh in about a decade the other day.
Him and the little kids and the horrible things they say to each other are fucking brilliant.
Well, it was a scene with the little kids. It's where she says, "Your spit can't touch him," and he just gozzes in the kid's face. It is, I couldn't breathe. I was in pain. I had tears streaming down my face. I have never laughed so hard at an alien spitting in a kid's face. I mean,
he is.
Does that make me a wrong un? I think
no. Because he says horrible things to those kids.
Yeah, he's awful. He's
awful.
But I do also want to recommend talking about music. There's a band from Tijuana in Mexico called Habak, female fronted, or not that you would know that if you listen to the lyrics, and you have to be a fan of DIY crust punk blended with soundscapes. They are pretty intense. But they released a new album. I meant to mention them last week. They've released
How
a
do you
new
spell that,
album.
Jeff?
Habak, Habak. They don't sing in English either. Not that you can hear what she's saying anyway, but I really like them, and I think they deserve more notoriety. So,
My recommendations are going to be two things that I've already mentioned so far, because they're the two things that Linus Roach is in, which is I need to watch. It's been a while to rewatch Batman Begins, where he plays Thomas Wayne in that very sort of sensitive way that really sets up the moral core of of the Kit Nolan Batman, Christian Bale sort of Batman era, where it's that, like, the sort of mix between he and the Michael Caine Alfred character, like, really give that Batman his sort of moral center. And I feel like in the very brief time that Linus Roach has in Batman Begins, he really makes a big impact. And then the other thing was from the year 2000, Pandemonium, which is spelled Pandaemonium. Sorry, trying to spell it out loud in my head. Which stars, again, Linus Roach and John Hannah, who people will recognize as one of the guys from those Mummy films. And they play Wordsworth and Coleridge, it's an extraordinary film. It's really directed by Julian Temple. It's worth seeking out. They're both amazing.
Cool. All right, folks. Well, do we know what the name of the next episode is? Anyone have it up?
It's called The Well.
The Well? Ooh, I like that. So next week we will be back and be talking about The Well. And as always, guys, thanks for coming on. I enjoyed these conversations. I've been having a blast. But folks, as always, we thank you, and we hope to see you somewhere in time or space.
Thing's still working.
All right, so we're good to go. Here we go. Well, hello, and welcome to Galaxy.
Welcome to Galaxy Quest.
Yeah, Galaxy Quest. Shit, let's do a Galaxy Quest episode sometime.
I've actually never seen it. It's on the list.
Have you seen Mystery Man?
No, actually, never seen that one either. It's
on
the list.
My God!
List. There's a list.
I'm disappointed in you, Melvin. Those are really high up nerd cred shit movies, and they're both.
Are you still recording?
Yeah.
Okay, good. Just keep it in. Let's just go. Keep going.
We'll talk about it.
No, this needs to be in there.
I think you need to watch it, and Free Enterprise. Add that in as a triple bill.
It's on the list. But yeah, just go ahead and reintroduce us. I think this belongs in here so that everyone can feel my shame.
I'll remember. I'll put it as a tag at the end.
Mm-hmm.
All right.